Hi, in this video we'll illustrate the application of the lower of cost or market to determine the amount of any necessary inventory write-down for impaired inventory. It uses the same facts as the previous video where we applied the lower of cost or net realizable value. I'm going to answer question number 1 for you right here. The requirement number 1, the company is applying LIFO, and therefore we will apply lower of cost or market because the lower of cost or market method is used to determine the amount of any inventory write-down, impaired inventory, when the company either applies LIFO or applies the retail inventory method. In this case, they are indeed applying LIFO. A few other relevant facts to keep in mind for the case. Number 1, the replacement cost we called purchasing, and the replacement cost is 24. And that's what it will cost to buy the next pair of men's sandals from Crocs. And we sell them in our retail, the company, What a Croc Shoe Store, sells them for 32 in their retail locations. And remember, they also have 4 other types of products, and there's the information for those. The sales commission is 15% of the amount of the sale. The normal profit margin is 40% of the selling price, that column. Okay, that is for every $100 sold, 60 is the cost of goods sold, and 40 is the gross profit. So if the selling price is 32, 40% of selling price is $12.80, and that's what we will be our profit margin when we sell men's sandals, if indeed we're able to sell them at 32, which we expect to be able to. The cost of goods sold is $32 times 60% of 32. Okay, so with that in mind, work the case, and then you will have mastered this, having ground through the various calculations required 5 times to do it on each type of inventory. And then, of course, also do requirement number 3, do it for the entire inventory as a whole. But, of course, that doesn't take much additional work. All right, good luck, and I will see you with my solution momentarily. All right, welcome back. So the question number 1 asks which one is appropriate to apply, and it's the lower of cost or market method to check for inventory impairment, because in this case the company is applying LIFO. We would have used LOCOM as well, lower of cost or market, if they were applying the retail inventory method. But in this case, it's their choice of cost flow assumption. And of course, if they use both, we will use LOCOM. And lower of cost or market compares cost to market as defined, in a rather interesting way. And let's summarize that now. It's the lower of the cost or market, which is the replacement cost, replace the unit, in this case by purchasing it from Crocs, but there is a floor and a ceiling on that market. The ceiling is the net realizable value. We've seen that before. And the floor is the net realizable value minus that profit margin. Selling price, and then profit margin is selling price minus the unit cost. All right. All right. So here's the table I used for this. We have the products, the current quantity of the product in pairs, of course, the LIFO cost, the market, which is unit replacement cost, the unit selling price, the per unit commission, which recall is 15% of the selling price, the per unit shipping, which recall is 0 for this case. And so the net realizable value is selling price minus commissions and any shipping where appropriate. That's the net realizable value. That becomes the ceiling amount that we may use as market. And then the floor amount is gross profit, net realizable value minus profit margin. Then the market is the middle value of the 3 dotted columns. And then the LIFO cost total will be the extension, and the market total will be the extension, and then we'll choose the lower. Okay, so I know that's complex, so that's why you want to have worked this case already and maybe even set this table up the way it makes sense to you. A lot of information, a lot of calculations. All right, again, here's my solution. I encourage you to go ahead and start in and redo it if indeed you haven't yet worked it. Okay, welcome back if that's appropriate. Men's sandals. We have 1,000 pairs. The LIFO historical cost is 20. All right, so this is historical cost. LIFO historical cost. The market is the unit replacement cost. Remember, we called purchasing and they said, yeah, Crocs is charging 24 a pair now. So that's the replacement cost. And that's going to be market unless it's greater than the ceiling or less than the floor. So let's calculate the ceiling and the floor. The ceiling value is $27.20, which is the selling price of 32 minus the commission of 480, net realizable value, 27.20. So unit price minus and minus, minus, minus. And so that ceiling becomes 27.20. The floor is 14.40. That, my friends, is 27.20 net realizable value minus 12.80, which is the $32 selling price times 40%. Because remember, the profit margin is 40%. Sorry. So that 1440 there is 2720 minus 1280. The 2720 is the net realizable value. The 1280 is the gross profit. And then the net of those two is the I'm sorry, this profit margin, and the net of those two is 1440, and that'll be the floor. All right, so since the middle value is of the 24, 27, and 1440, the replacement cost is not less than the floor and it's not greater than the ceiling, so we'll use it. 24. And so the LIFO cost total is 20,000, 1,000 times 20. This is 1,000 pairs times 24, unit replacement cost. And the lower of those is the 20,000. So we have no impairment shown on men's sandals. Okay, now let's raise that a little bit so you can see it. See the schedule. And there is the calculation for all the other products. Remember, we're doing it on a per unit basis. So the calculations are the same. Make sure you write yourself some notes. But I use the same mathematics. And of course, all of this is programmed into Excel, which is always a valuable time saver in the real world. And then you use the middle function to select the middle of these three columns, which is what I have done in this column. But of course, I want you to do it by hand here so you know what's in those cells and you can put the information in those cells in the calculations. All right. So on a per unit inventory item basis, there is no impairment with men's sandals. There is impairment with women's sandals. Interesting. Oh, I'm sorry, there is not. The lower of cost or market. Oh, yes, no, there is. I'm sorry. My goodness. There's so much data in this calculations that sometimes this is why you need to really work hard on it to make it make sense. Lower is the 17,600 market value. We use the floor value for boys' sandals, but it's still no impairment because the LIFO cost of 6 is still less than the floor of 720, which is the middle value. For the girls' sandals, the $8 replacement cost is the middle value. It is lower than the ceiling and higher than the floor of the ceiling being 1020, the floor being 540. And there is impairment under LOCOM. And there is also impairment on the logo shirts. So we have an adjusting journal entry. And that adjusting journal entry looks like this, where we put the debit to cost of goods sold, and it's the sum of the write-downs. We wrote down the women's sandals from its current LIFO cost to its market value as calculated. So we had to write it down by $6,400. We wrote down the girls' sandals by $1,200, and we wrote down the logo shirts by $3,540. The difference between $16,800 and $13,260. And then the sum of these is the total write down in the income statement of $11,140. All right. Again, lots of calculations there. If you haven't mastered it yet, by all means, rework it. Of course, read the passage from the book, watch the general video, and then rework the case again. Now, on a total inventory basis, we've already done the legwork here. We have the same LIFO cost, total inventory at LIFO cost, total inventory at market as defined under LOCOM, and we have to write it down from 67,200 to 60,780. So we debit cost of goods sold for 6420 and credit inventory for 6420. It becomes basically a contra inventory account. Or we can spread the 6420 across the impaired products pro rata. All right. And that is the application of LOCOM. Again, I encourage you to master that by working the problems. Lots of calculations, but once you get them, you got them. And you'll want to know that for, of course, the exam in here, but also the CPA exam, and also how to set up the Excel spreadsheet when you're in practice, because you're going to do this with a lot of your retail clients. All right. Thank you for your attention, and have a great day.